volume. Turn that up a little bit. I just love these beats, man. I'm feeling it right now. Let's get that feeling right here. Ladies and gentlemen, the So What Morning Show. Back in the building. Mondays. Hey, it's August 4th. Time of Leo. Summertime, Apex. And you know the topics are at the top of the game right now. Before I tell you what today's topic is, you know we got to do what we normally do, and that's community empowerment. Books. Oh, this is our theme song right here. Let it ride. Books, websites, businesses. Listen, if you want to promote your business, just email me, 2319 Z as in zebra, O as in Oscar, 1 at gmail.com. 2319zo1 at gmail.com. I'll promote your shit for free. It's what we do. We want to empower the community, right? So this is how we do it. With that said, Real Men Don't Play. Author Bobby Glanton Smith. Please go to his website, realmendon'tplay.com, and purchase a copy of Bobby's book. All right? Do that right now. Also, my associate producer, let that be, come on now, don't, there we go. My associate producer, the little homie who does all of the graphics, he's only 25 years old, crispygraphics.com. Please support his movement as well. This is a book that was written by his grandmother, Mary Linda Steed. Hey, let's celebrate you. Who, me? Yes, you. We must kick out discouragement, the dream killer. Right? Please support the little homie, Chris Purnell, right? His grandmother. This is her work right here. Mary Linda Steed. Hey, let's celebrate you. Who, me? Yes, you. We must kick out discouragement, the dream killer. Also, you can purchase a copy of The Rebirth of Seeds, my book. I'm telling you, my supplies are running low. Get to it now, or like I said, I don't know when I'm gonna be able to re-up on a whole new batch of books. So we coming down to the bottom of the barrel. Go to my website right now. This is a call to action. IamZoeWilliams.com. And if you do that, I promise, I will sign a copy, to be autographed or whatever. I'll hit you up with that. I appreciate it. IamZoeWilliams.com, a copy of The Rebirth of Seeds. We really appreciate it. Now, we should have somebody on the phone right now, don't we? Listen, especially in light of today's topic, it's so crazy. Let's bring in none other than Veronica Conway to speak about Black Mastery, her coaching practices, and why this is very important and why I'm still hung up on it. Veronica, welcome to the show. Talk to me about Black Mastery.
Hello. Hi.
Hey.
Well, I think it's really important in the context of today's show when you're talking about the Black masterminding family. And I think that we as families need to mastermind together and put ourselves in a position where you vision, where you are achieving goals together. There's nothing more powerful than doing that, and I think the Black families need to do that more often, and Black Mastery could be the foundation of that.
Wow. And listen, if you haven't figured out yet, my whole show, and I know this is uncomfortable, I tell people this all the time, I'm flawed. I've been through hell. I've done terrible shit. I've also done some pretty good things in my life too. And I'm not in any way, shape, or form your judge trying to tell you what you should do, right? My thing is, if you're not learning from this situation, from this platform, from this show, if you're not doing the work yourself, then it's really just entertainment, right? Because that's my whole life is about correcting the wrongs that I've done and changing who I used to be and evolving and being open to that. And with that said, We got a couple more businesses to promote. I'm going to go to break, and then we're going to hit you with a topic that you can't believe, and the guests will be in here. It's going to be crazy. Blackmastery.com. Get there right now and purchase the Neurolinguistic program that's going to rewrite these beliefs. That's what this show is about anyway. I'm wearing a shirt from Ramo Mart. Please support the brother Ramo Mart, Omar Buckley. He is a 28-year-old fashion designer out of New York. He's doing a lot of positive things. I'm rocking some of his stuff right now. Please support. Also go to hiploose.com. Hip Loose is also a black-owned tailor, a black-owned business. They're tailors. And like I tell you, man, the finest in material, the finest craftsmanship. These guys are awesome. They created a suit for me that's worth at least $1,300, $1,400. I mean, it's really icy. You know, if you want to do it big, you want to do it right, you want to do it classy, try Hip Loose. They're incredible. Please support. Also go to Arise Hospitality. If you're a small business and you're doing business where you need to purchase office supplies or furniture or things like that, Arise Hospitality will offer you all of those options in much the same way as, or in exactly the same way as, say, Staples or Office Max, but only they're black. I say, hey, take your business to them and let's bring that money back into our community and continue to recycle it. Also, Fayronic Designs. Very important that you support the brother over at Fayronic Designs. I was wearing one of his jackets last week. I love the brother's stuff, and his spirit is great too. And it's all about uplifting the community and getting you to reacclimate to your image as opposed to killing yourself to wear somebody else's image, right? So very good stuff, Fayronic Designs. Also, EasyBoyWeb.com. I like supporting this brother because, again, he's a techie, right? And he has a techie business here. He's building websites. He's creating logos. He's creating social media solutions. The dude is incredible. He's out of Atlanta. He can build your website in a heartbeat. He's reasonable. He's affordable, and he's talented. EasyBoyWeb.com. We're trying to support everybody here. Also, Bobby gave me Emerge Solutions. This brother was a guest on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he has solutions for who?
Healthcare administration, particularly for the veterans.
And you know that's a big deal and a big situation that's going on right now. Now that that's out the way, community empowerment is done, I'm coming back. And when I do, topics, man. The topics are going to be bananas. It's going to be crazy. Full house. Nuts. I'll talk to you in a minute.
And one of the greatest tragedies in life is getting to the end of your life and looking back and realizing it was mediocre and it didn't have to be that way.
The number one reason is people are unwilling to listen and care about what's important to the other person.
But what if you could be someone who dared to care about everybody in your life?
When you're in love, smoke gets in your eyes. But when you're anxious, you talk more than you listen.
I asked my wife a month ago, I said, I don't know whether to have an affair or buy a motorcycle. And she said, if you have an affair, I'll kill you. If you get the motorcycle, you'll kill yourself, go with the bike. So we're all in this together when it comes to education. So here's a couple tips for parents, especially before the school year gets started. You know, a lot of times when our kids see us doing whatever the heck we want, they see us giving in to our feelings, it makes it difficult to tell them not to. So a couple tips for parents to do, and if you did this for a week, it'll change your family. Every day, everyone in the family talks about two things. One thing is, what is one thing that they got frustrated with and they didn't go ballistic about? So because every day something happens that frustrates, upsets, or ticks us off, and parents weigh in and say, you know, this bothered me, but I didn't go crazy at someone else and I didn't go crazy at myself. What about you? And the second thing is, every day there is something that each of us wants to bail on. Every day there's something that each of us wants to quit because it's too hard. So if parents and children every day share what is something that upset them, but they didn't go crazy at someone else or themselves about, and what is something that they wanted to quit on, but they didn't, And I think when kids see parents doing that, it's easier for them to follow it. But when you see your parents not doing it and you have the do as I say, not as I do thing, I think that creates a lot of hypocrisy. So see if you can take those to begin the school year with.
Well, school is right around the corner, and education in America is a big issue. Do you remember back in the day, everybody understands the term nigga, right? We all understand that term, right?
I understand that I can't say it.
No, you can't.
Well, under your breath and at home by yourself, yes,
No,
maybe.
I don't even think it.
But what we all understand that, and especially as black people, when I was coming up, I was always told the word meant ignorant, right? You remember grandma, big mama? Don't use that word, it's ignorant. It means ignorant. And you not ignorant. Okay, big mama, I ain't gonna say it no more.
Yeah, Big Mama wasn't playing.
No, she wasn't playing, right? So in doing this topic, I thought, just looking at the crisis in America, and I'm going to be asking a bunch of questions here before I introduce everybody at the panel. But I put the thought together that the educational system is turning out ignorant people. In effect, niggas, regardless of race. It's nigga knowledge, right? Because once you figure out the purpose of education in America from the administrator or the authority's position, then you start to recognize that this is about establishing a class, right? It's crazy the way this is going. So today's topic, the crisis in America, education. I've got questions. Who's ready to deal with these questions? Anybody got note, pen? Get it out now, because we're going to be asking questions, and I need y'all to chime in, all right?
Mm-hmm.
What is the ultimate purpose of education? Is it simply to get a job? Is it to just integrate into an economy? Or is it more? And if it's more, is that being taught in American schools? 855-878-4652. Follow us now at TRadioV on Twitter, at Zoe Williams on Twitter. I want to hear your responses. I'll read them off. Respond to us at Zoe Williams. 855-878-4652 is the number to dial. Has the American educational system purposely killed our children's inner and outer problem solver? It's not about solving problems. It's about passing tests. Is that it? Somebody call us right now, 855-878-4652. As it pertains to black students in the American educational system, is it merely an orientation into white supremacy? That's a hard one, right? Stephen A. Smith just learned about that one, right? Say something we don't like, intelligent or not, get up out of here. Reprimand, right? Reward and punishment. Know your place. Is education placism? 855-878-4652 is the number to dial. It's about to get ugly in here, man. I'm telling you. Oh, my goodness. True or false? Like religion, if you can't see yourself in your education, you can only be indoctrinated. You okay, Geoff?
Wow.
Yikes, right? True or false? America doesn't have an education problem. It merely has a poverty problem. When you have money, you have the resources necessary to pass or get tutoring or studies or whatever. You have those resources that help you get better grades, right?
Yeah, you can't fix stupid, though.
Stupid is something that can't be fixed.
Cannot fix stupid.
This is my final question. I have more, but this is my final question for now. And I think it's an important one. What is the advantage of sending your kids to private schools / independent schools, maybe charter schools, versus the public schools? Aren't black people better at teaching their own kids? Somebody speak to that. 855-878-4652. Now, with that said, nigga knowledge is on track for a hell of a conversation. Let me get to my august panel on the So What Morning Show. Let's start with my brother right next to me. Freez Luv, comedian, cut his teeth in the game with Eddie Griffin many years ago. Funny as hell. From my hometown, Pasadena, one of my mentors. He was one of the reasons why I got into rap music. He had a record out. Went to
1987.
In 1987, right? Freez Luv, comedian extraordinaire, in the building. Welcome to the So What Morning Show.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to also point out that I am miseducated.
Wow, I am miseducated. Also, Geoff Brown,
Yes.
in the building. Intellectual, irritant, funny man extraordinaire in the building. Can't wait for your commentary on said topic.
Also well miseducated.
And, of course, the anchor, the white man, the validation for why we're in this building.
Where it all starts.
Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, the author of Just Listen,
Great book.
world-renowned psychiatrist, doctor, good all-around person, though. Y'all don't know about this dude. Dr. Mark Goulston, in the building.
You know, the secret to ending war all around the world, listen more than you talk and care about it when you hear it.
Great point. We love it. Thanks, Doc, for the Lily White moment.
Thank you.
Also, in the building, artist, singer, beauty, intellect, extraordinaire. Let's just give it all to you, honey. Jasmine is back.
Oh, okay. You hopped over. Okay, because I was nervous for a minute.
No.
I was like, wait a minute.
It's
I'm a
Jasmine.
huge fan, but I ain't never looked at him like that.
And also, right now, our special guest in studio, actor, award-winning actor. This dude has been in everything, man. I'm just so... First off, we were doing shows together at the same spot a little while ago, and I'm just so thrilled to have him here. He's one of my favorite movies.
Are you kidding me?
Life.
Are you kidding me?
All right, now the boy done had
I
enough.
mean, yeah.
Right? Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Obba Babatunde has joined us on the So What Morning Show. Thank you, brother.
Indeed. A pleasure to be here, my friend.
Thank you. We about to get into it real tough. Bobby G?
Education forms a common mind, and when the twig is bent, the tree inclines.
Well, there you have
There
it.
you have
Rapping
it.
from the country.
From up under the shade tree with gators on. Wow. Watching them kids. That's
So,
like-
let's talk about the crisis in America regarding education and black folk. Because again, following that through line we use on most of these shows, if America in general is sick,
It's the sniffles.
then black folk,
Got cancer.
we got cancer. Stage 4 pancreatic.
Yes.
We were in trouble.
Yes.
We Patrick Swayze with it,
Yeah.
right?
You know, I got a seventh question. You know, people don't do what's important to them. They do what they care enough about. It's important to me to diet. I don't care enough about it. So how do you get students, parents? How do you get people to care enough about education to bother with it? We all know it's important, but what do you do to get people to care enough?
It's real simple. You explain to parents that unless you want to continue to feed these people that you produce for the entirety of their lives, and if you don't do that fast enough, they might take you out earlier. So I think you have to instill in parents the necessity of preparing their children for life outside the home.
Here's the thing that I think is problematic. When you look at the dropout rate amongst African American men, males, boys, it's over 50%. My question is there a stereotypical disconnect between the young boy and the teacher? If the teacher sees the young boy as a threat, will they be vulnerable enough and open enough to connect with that child? And if the teacher is looking at the child through a stereotypical lens, how then can that teacher really effectively do their job?
I think the teachers are basically out of hope. I don't want to call them hopeless, but a great many of them are out of hope, and
Wow.
that mental place is systematic. It's systemic. It is set up to where, okay, these young black males we only trying to make these drones. We only need them drones. And all they got to do is be able to drive a bus or drop off a package. We're not trying to make any leaders here. And the ones of you...
But that's not just black men. That's across the system, across races.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
But again, amplified in our particular situation. So when you get to one that's giving me problems that's outside of this book, that I would have to think as opposed to do. I'm here to do. I'm not here to think.
Well, I also think that you've really tapped into it by certain words that you've identified. The words association, the words education. The brain works by association. It does not work by logic. That's why you can know something is not good for you and still be able to do it. Okay? So identify the fact that here you are. You either think why do we think the way we think about things, no matter what it is? And this specifically pertains to the educational system. Do you think the way you think because of education, indoctrination, or association? Which one of those three things do you identify as the way you think about something specifically? And again, you also talked about, is there a disconnect? There is an absolute disconnect, and we should deal with why there's a disconnect and how it pertains particularly to the systematic aspect of the way the system is designed to produce what? You've laid out very specifically and very intelligently exactly what our issues are, and I think if we stick with those things, we're going to be able to identify some things that, as you mentioned, are uncomfortable, but they're the things that need to be dealt with and need to be looked at.
Man, y'all don't understand what's happening up in here right now. To speak to what the brother is saying even further and to go deeper on it, the system is designed and based on debt. Let's just look at it that way, right? In order for you to want a job or to even value having a job, you're going to have some debt or some kind of pressure on your back that you're going to have to work to clear, right? So most of the kids who come out of college, they come out attached to a tremendous debt load, which puts them in the position of, I got to get a job to get this off of me, right? Unless you're a sports guy or somebody who got a scholarship to go there or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's really about assimilating into an economic system. Now, here's the problem with that. Now we got to keep creating jobs. How do we keep creating jobs? Because every year off the factory school line, there's another class of people with a degree that might not mean anything in the job market because there are no available jobs. How do we figure that problem out? Do you see the conundrum we're faced with? Listen, you hear the music. We're about to take a quick break. When we come back, more questions, nigga knowledge. So what mornings? Holla!
And what is the purpose of knowledge? Are you just here to learn something so you can go out and get a job and move out of the ghetto and live in a decent neighborhood, but don't know how to take the ghetto and turn it into a decent neighborhood? Is it just education for a job and money? What is the purpose of knowledge that separates the human from the beast of the field? The purpose of knowledge is the cultivation of the human being and the gifts that God has deposited, not in some, but in every human being. God has deposited a gift that education is supposed to bring out of you and help you to cultivate and develop it and then put it back into the service of yourself, your family, your community, your nation, your world, for the glory of God.
You have to have a certain kind of brain to understand the dead language that they write in textbooks. But they brainwash you from a little kid up so that you buy into the system and you get good grades and you study hard and then you become a member of the total system, no freedom. You don't know how to think because they told you how to think their way.
College tuition has seen 5.15% annual price inflation over the past 5 years. This is despite the fact that U.S. real estate prices are down 26% from their peak in July of 2006, and the Dow Jones is down 18% from its peak in October of 2007. Even oil is down 38% from its peak in July of 2008. During the financial crisis of 2008, Americans lost $10.2 trillion in paper wealth. And college is the only thing in America, besides the cost of health care, that did not at least temporarily decline in price.
Inflation has made it impossible. Again, when I was a kid, it wasn't, you never heard parents saying, we're planning and putting money away for your education because it's going to cost us $100,000 and we have to keep putting that money away so that when you graduate, not only will you not pay us back, you're not even going to get a job.
The hustle is real. Nega knowledge. 855-878-4652. Before I go to you, Bobby, let me hit this question. What would the Afro-American population look like if the so-called black intelligentsia, the bourgeoisie, the uppity niggas,
The Bartholomew.
yes, them niggas, right? What if they took ownership and responsibility for educating our own people instead of feeling like they need distance and separation from their own people? What would our youth look like if they said, we gonna take ownership? But it's hard to worship two masters, isn't it?
Yeah.
The moment you accept money,
Welcome.
you're on the hook for their agenda. Go into it, Bobby.
The last point the man made in that clip is very telling because 85% of this year's graduating class nationwide walked into a world without a job. 85% of college graduates this past year are unemployed.
How do we deal with the Bill Cosbys and all of the upper class? Education. If you do not have control of your education, you're really screaming indoctrination. And if indoctrination is the answer, is that not the same issue that Martin Luther King recognized toward the end of his life when he told Harry Belafonte, I feel like I'm bringing my people into a burning house? What is the new solution for today? Dr. G, can you bring some whiteness to this?
Something you run into students everywhere is they'll look at something and they'll say, why do I need to learn this? I'm never going to use it. And so they demotivate themselves. And I think a lot of us think, why do something unless I know what it's going to get me? Now, that doesn't make you educated. And maybe what people need to see, maybe in the black community, you need to have people who come in and say, if you do A, B, and C, what it'll get you is me. And it can be a whole wide range of things. But when you start preaching education and understanding stuff, it just goes over people's minds. But if you can come there and not just be an MBA star and say, if what it'll get you is me and you want to be me, this is how you do it. I think you have to backtrack from what people can see that they want. As soon as it starts being abstract or anything, it's not just blacks, whites. Everyone tunes out unless they know what's in it for them.
Babatunde, and then Freez Luv, and then Jasmine.
Simply, people want the problem contained, not solved. That's what we're dealing with. They want the problem contained, not solved. And until you decide that you want the problem solved, then it's simple. It's almost speaking to what the doctor just spoke to. You have to identify what is the problem, and then what is the resolution to the problem, and then you begin there, and then you have somewhere to work from, just to respond to your question.
Absolutely.
I think that what we're living in, I don't know if there's a way out, to be honest with you.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
Because this is something, this didn't just happen. We're seeing the results of years of planning. This started, I can remember when I was in the 6th grade, it was the first time that I really understood something about education. That was Proposition 13. Here in California, they had Proposition 13. All of a sudden, all these sixth graders that were supposed to go on to junior high school were held back at their elementary schools, and they created one school for all the eighth graders in all of one city of Pasadena, and they all went to that school. And that was, I asked my parents, well, how can they do that? And my parents said the government wants it that way.
Wow.
And it was pretty simple. The government wants it that way. And this is where we are. The government wants it this way. And I'm not talking about the U.S. government. I'm talking about the world government. The U.S. went from being an educated society to now being a dumb society. They need somebody to be dumb.
And it's been deliberately, because it causes me to think about Charlotte Thompson, who was working for the Department of Education during the Reagan years. And she wrote a book, The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America, and whistle blew in, I think it was the 80s maybe. And this was right before they started pushing standardized testing. And she was saying that it was funded by the Rockefeller and the Carnegie administrations with the point to separate the parents from the children, to separate that connection so they could go into the schools and whatever they're learning at home, it wouldn't conflict whatever the government was trying to instill.
Right, because the reality is you can't govern freedom. You can't govern intelligence. You gotta be dumb in order to be governed.
Do you think there's a message from the Jewish community? A friend of mine was saying to me, he said, do you know why education is so important in the Jewish community? And I said, why? He said, it's the one thing no one can take away from you, because they can take everything away from you, but they can't take away your education. And I'd never heard it said that way. And and I can see, not that we don't want to bring up anything going on in world news now and all that sort of stuff, but can that translate across you think you can communicate that to anyone, that anyone would care about? Education really is something that no one can take away from you. They can take everything else away from you.
I used to hear that all the time when I was little. My grandmother used to say that to me. I don't think that it's about whether or not your education can be taken from you. The question is, what is it being given to you for, and what are you using it for, and how you can take those two questions, and regardless to the answer, what is it being given to you for? If the answer is something that doesn't work for you, then use it for something else. I think that's what Zoe was bringing up about cats. The first thing they want to do is get out of the ghetto. I know the ghetto is horrible, but the ghetto is more horrible from within than it is from without. I don't see any.
Say more about that.
I had this happen. At a club one night. I was doing this mostly black room. There's a few white people there, and this one brother yells out, "F white people." I say, you know what? I hate white people too, bruh. You know the ones I hate the worst are the ones that late at night sneak in the projects and bust out all the windows and piss in the elevators. I can't stand those white people. Okay? What you got to do, the ghetto starts being bad from within. That's right. And that is because the people who have the higher minds, they can't wait to buy a house in the suburbs.
So what do we do about those niggas there? Right?
Which niggas? The niggas that move?
Like, for instance, let me just say, I know the thought process of the African American community is a byproduct of the conditions that were set up, right?
Right.
The system. However, we still have to take a modicum of responsibility, and that is, we've got kids now who associate articulation and intelligence with white. And we have to remember, we are the ones who educated the world before there was a rise of white, right? It was us.
I used to say that in grammar school. You talking white? I used to get beat up for that.
So there's an anti-intellectualism movement that's happening amongst the youth. Bobby?
Well, I was taught that education is a part of your cornerstone, if you will, and you build upon that education, because you can become an educated fool pretty quickly, because I know people that got more degrees than a thermometer and they can't find their way out of a one-room apartment with an exit sign over the door. So common sense is really not that common. And when I look at the thought process, we have to begin to teach people how to think for themselves.
But why do they not want us to think for ourselves, Bobby? What is the ultimate ulterior motive behind let's teach them what to think as opposed to how to think? Why is that?
Well, once you can control a person's thought process, then it's autopilot. You don't have to tell them to kill each other or to do things that are antithetical to their own, self-determination. You used the word ghetto before. Somebody will pass by that same community and see nothing but opportunity.
Right.
We just see bricks and mortar. All right. People see opportunity. It's happening all over the country right now. White people moving back in the city, and we can't get to Lancaster fast enough because we don't have the ability to look through a lens that produces a vision that supports our own determination, because we have been taught to think like other people think, but not really, because they don't think like that.
But you know
they
what's so
condition
powerful?
us to think that way.
You know, your point just really concretized the doc's point. Just by one thing he said, the reason why education is so important to the Jews, we don't have a collective umwelt like that. Niggas is just in school. It's time for you to be somewhere, ain't it?
Yep.
There's no collective movement.
I'm finna learn how to step.
Right. He said the reason why education is so important to the Jews, the good, the bad Jews, the evil Jews, the nice Jews, all Jews in between, the reason why it means something to us, we don't have a to us. We got niggas who get a degree and move somewhere else and go, ooh,
that's them.
Mama, I made it. We'll be back at 2.2. So what morning's getting crazy.
Have nots are grabbing for a fraction of the act.
We keep hearing about this black middle class. There's no black middle class in America. The word class is a Marxist concept that means ownership of the means of production. So in order for you to be middle class or upper class, you must have some degree of control. Some degree of control over the industries that make America the capitalist giant that it is. In other words, you control real estate, you control industry, you control airlines, you control shipping lines, you control factories, you control machinery, you produce and distribute. To be a member of a class, middle class or upper class, to be a bourgeoisie, you have to have the ability to control production. Black people don't own any institutions. So how are we going to control production? We can't. So the term black middle class is the biggest lie that's ever been pushed on the black community.
Coming out of this, advisors to the king. And that word, that boule word, can be looked up in a encyclopedia. Well, now people don't use them, they use internet. And that's a dangerous thing, a dangerous dependency. But boule, B-O-U-L-E, the Greek version. There's a French version that's a coming together, a conclave, the AKA called their convention, the boule. But the Greek word is what we're looking for, the advisors to the king. The lower house of the Greek parliament is called boule. Mm-hmm. And if you know the American congressional system, Senate, 6 years, more power, authority, only 100. 2 per state. Congress, 435, have to run every 2 years. Your lower house has less power and authority. So it appears as if, in finding the boule, that within it was a subordination to something else. And in its history book, it drew attention. Here's a logo. And this is their logo is a Grecian sphinx. It's an animal. And this Grecian sphinx is similar to a griffin or a gargoyle. Kind of ironically, the boule had their convention in Los Angeles in 1941. And where else? Griffin Park. And this logo, this symbol, is a guardian animal. This would be similar to a Rottweiler or a dog or a German Shepherd. They tend to protect something higher than itself.
Let me ask you a question. In terms of young people today who are on college campuses who want to join fraternities and sororities, what is your advice?
It's interesting, the movie Stomp the Yard. I thought that was an interesting attempt to try to reconstruct the options, because they are catching hell in the streets. There is a rise of Kemetic-centered, African-centered societies that are repudiations of Greeks. And this is on the rise on many of the campuses around the country. And many of those fraternities and sororities, like the American military, were finding reduced numbers, questions of hazing and brutality. And see, that's an important thing about a secret society, is the initiation or the ritual, which is an act of submission. I would never want anyone to underestimate when someone goes on that line and they beat them or they make them do things or unusual things or ridicule them, that act is an act of submission, and that's very essential to keeping a secret society in order. How do you command that subordination?
That was Dr. Umar Johnson in the first part, and then the second part was Brother Stokely Carmichael, right, who's done a lot of research on the boule. Boule is, the upper class echelon of blacks in America, highly educated.
The Bartholomew.
Right. In this case, I would say the highly programmed, because what the brother broke down very clearly, and I think it's very important that we understand that, it's about industry. It's about owning, right? Remember Bill Cosby tried to buy NBC?
Yeah.
No, nigga. You don't get to own stuff like this.
And didn't blink when they threw the number at him.
But you know why? Because they understand the money is fiat. That's not gold. That's not $400 million, $500 million in gold. That's paper that really is just a part of the game we established. Right? I love Robert Anton Wilson, how he called what he called money in his book Prometheus Rising. He said all they are is bio-survival tickets. That's what money is. Bio-survival tickets. And I've got your life so out of whack that you're only focused on the pursuit of bio-survival tickets. I had the same kind of conversation with Quincy Jones when he said the hip-hop kids are right in their pursuit of money.
I'm sorry. I'm going to have to interrupt you. Whenever you do Quincy Jones, you have to do Quincy Jones.
Oh, the voice.
Yeah. Now, what did you say?
Shit, man, hell, right? No, but that's what but what he said, for the hip hop kids, go get your money. He said, but now once you get the money and you give all your friends money and you give them jobs and you give them meaning or whatever, take care of your family, but then go out into the world and see if your money is worth anything. That was very powerful. Go see if your money is worth, right? Again, we are so, I always say this, the black community is much like the LGBT community. I always tell the LGBTers, stop trying to force your way into Christianity.
Yeah, that's a group that don't want you.
It's thousands of years old. You can't rewrite the book. God said he hated you. He said you were an abomination. It's written.
It's like going to a Klan rally and complaining about the parking.
Right?
We're not even supposed to be here.
So what I find with black folk is we're always trying to prove to the oppressor that we're worthy. And there's diversity now. Now that this show Scandal couldn't have existed unless there were inroads to diversity that allows a black woman to be a side chick to the white president. This is a grand day for us. That's our movement. It's always moving towards validation from the authority. If you are elite, Boule, purchase the educational system of yo people and you govern it. Now, if you ain't governing it and all you doing is sitting on your high horse looking down your nose at people you belong to, your roots, then we're never going to make it. We can never experience the joy of what Dr. Goulston explained when he said, the reason why education is important to us, guess what? They control the narrative of their education too. Bobby always talks about the narrative. We don't have ownership of black narrative in America.
Well,
Jasmine?
But then how do you get that ownership? Like, how do we create that value? Because from what I see in the black community is, like we said, we don't value intellectualism. And oftentimes, maybe stemming from slavery, especially when it comes to the brothers, it's athleticism, it's sexual prowl. These are the things that were admired and needed on the plantation.
I have an answer
so I
to
feel
that.
like we still kind of perpetuate that, especially with black men who don't, they think, well, I got a big dick and I can hoop and I and that's kind of what's important to me is how many women can I get, and even the intellectual is just intellectual. There's brothers with knowledge, but how do we apply that?
He's a nerd. He's corny.
You can't apply it though. But
how.
that's still part of the Mandingo programming.
Here's what, and in my humble opinion, here's how. Everybody, when we speak about black people, we speak about us all. We're not all gonna make it.
No.
Okay? In my humble opinion, there's not gonna be a start over until the dollar collapses, and that's coming. Until Jay-Z is being chased by the same militia dude that a homeless black man is. What? Then we will be forced together. What you do is you don't try. I don't care about that. First off, I don't care about grown-ass black people that don't get this. Above a certain age, screw you. I really don't care.
Right.
It's children that I try to get to. Okay? You have to find, like I don't know what the 5%ers are about now, but their original theme was that only 5% of black people are going to come into the true knowledge of self. So what you do is I come into a room, and I don't care about the other 95. I'll pray, or I'll throw up some holy, or I'll get one of those prayer cloths you can get at 3 in the morning. But I really don't care about them. I'm going to find the others that think like me, and that's where the fist starts. I can't save you all, and I'm not going to try.
And let me just do this really quickly. That was Steve Coakley, not Coakley. Stokely Carmichael. That was Steve Coakley.
Yeah, I want to talk about something that Jasmine said about anti-intellectualism. Do you think what it is that there's a number of people. It's not anti-intellectualism, it's anti-thinking. People do not want to think, and I think it's not even anti-thinking, it's anti-pausing. Because when people pause, they get anxious. And in their mind, what you do with anxiety is you release it. You don't learn from it, you release it. Now, you never get ahead in life, and I was thinking, now I'm probably speaking out of turn, but if you come from the black slave past where your thinking didn't matter, especially if you were male, your thinking didn't matter, you get into this learned helplessness. Why bother Why bother thinking when it's not going to make a difference anyway? But there's got to be a way of getting people to value thinking, value pausing, and realizing that in that pause, maybe that's why they call it the pregnant pause, you actually can choose things that might work out better than when you're shooting from the hip.
Brother Babatunde.
Yes, identify, if you will, to both of the four speakers' point. Anybody familiar with post-traumatic slave syndrome?
Yes.
Okay, so when you identify post-traumatic slave syndrome, we begin to understand and identify. For those who may not be aware of that, we've heard about post-traumatic stress syndrome. Now, if you look in the dictionary in Webster's, I think if you look under stress, you will see every definition save slavery. Now, do you identify if you were a person during the slavery times who had no right as a male or female or child to your own existence, that at any particular time that you could be or your family member could be destroyed, do you think that would have caused a little bit of stress?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, do you think that anybody then in that particular time had an opportunity to go to therapy? So then what happens, the answer to that is no. So what happens is that it then begins to be something that is passed on. So what we have today is we have that which was at the identified time of slavery, a design for you move when I move as a means for liberation, now becoming a recipe for incarceration. Because what you're dealing with is, if you look at white Johnny, 5 years old, black Johnny, 5 years old, in the bank, okay? Where's white Johnny? White Johnny is running around the bank, having a good time, doing what 5-year-olds do. They explore and discover. Okay, where's black little Johnny? He's right by mother's side. Okay, when mother gets to the teller, this is a perfect time because 5 years old, the wherewithal of black little Johnny would be the only difference is the physical difference, because there's no difference other than the fact of a 5-year child to a 5-year-old child. Okay, now here it is, an opportunity for black little Johnny, because mother's distracted, to go and do exactly what white little Johnny. But one of us from the black community, 4 people behind him that do not know black little Johnny or his mom, give him that look.
You better get.
And he goes right back to mom's side. Okay, so let's identify this now. So we will go to mother and we say to her, if I'll do this quickly, is we go to mother and we say, listen, why is it that you never let your little Johnny running around. He said, this is a bank, child. This ain't no a playground. And he said, well, would your mother allowed you to do it? I said, no. So now we go to Grandma. We said, Grandma, how come you would never allow your child to do it? She said, well, listen, baby, that child don't have no home training. Let's identify education and training. You are trained to do something. We train animals because they don't have the ability to think on their own or reason on their own. Training is something that you do to obtain a specific result for something. It involves very little thinking. So we're being trained, not educated. That's the first thing. Because you educate a child, you say this and you know across the street because you have a brain. All right, now if we go to the next, let's say the next generation, and we say, Grandma, how come you never learned? She said, baby, no, we had to, something you spoke to earlier. No, baby, we have to let them know that we are better than they are. So now we're qualifying ourselves against someone who is identified as being the establishment. You back that up 5 more generations, we are right at the door of slavery. And now, what would have happened to little Johnny should he decided to wander away from mother? He could have been eliminated and never seen again. So that which was a design for liberation, now, without the advancement of understanding in terms of the intellect of what's going on in terms of time, becomes a recipe for incarceration.
We got to take a break, Bobby. You hear the music. You see, Bobby playing games. He hear the music. We're going to come back to you, Bobby. Damn! We'll be back at 2.2. The Nigga Knowledge Show is on fire. Holla at you in a minute.
Look, I know a lot of people give Americans a bum rap for being stupid and knowing nothing about the world, but the reality couldn't be further from the truth. As I discovered on the streets here, asking US locals about the very world their country runs. Name a country that begins with U.
Yugoslavia?
With U? Utah.
A country that starts with a U. Utopia.
Who's in the coalition of the willing?
No freaking idea. Afghanistan, Kuwait,
Iraq, Pakistan, you know.
New Zealand.
New Zealand.
What's the religion of Israel?
Israeli. Muslim.
Islamic.
Catholic, probably.
What religion are Buddhist monks?
Buddhist monks.
Buddhist monk.
Islamic, I don't know.
Who won the Vietnam War?
We did.
And who was,
Wait, were we even in the Vietnam War? Okay, good.
who was Fidel Castro?
A singer.
How many sides does a triangle have?
Damn, 4.
There's no sides. 1.
I mean, you gave people, you asked like 1,000 people, you gave them the citizenship test that people have to take if they want to become a citizen. 38% failed outright. 1 in 3 couldn't name the vice president. 3 in 4 didn't know why we were fighting the Cold War. 4 in 10 didn't know who we fought in World War II. 2 out of 3 could not name the economic system we use here in the United States.
I know,
So,
it's pretty
you know,
gobsmacking, the whole...
You know, if people fail a test, you can do 2 things. You can make the people smarter, or you can make the test easier. I think we have to make the test easier. This is America. We dumb things down. So we have come up with a new test that I think will be much better for the people, and here are some of the questions on it. There is the 2000 Listen Tip. Question 1, name the king of beers.
We'll get that.
This is shit people can ask.
We'll get that.
Number 2, our government is composed of 3 branches. Name something else that has branches. Which of the following is not a historical motto that has been sewn on military flags? Don't give up the ship, don't tread on me, don't shit where you eat. Question 4, it can be found both on the Liberty Bell and in Whitney Houston's purse. little hint there. The Declaration of Independence says all men are entitled to life, liberty, hit that.
I'm not sure they would.
And finally, what blood type is Charlie Sheen? Bear, llama, rhinoceros, or a tiger? All right.
She was a bright, energetic young lady. Everybody thought Maya would do great things one day. Today was a special day. It was the first day of school, and Maya was looking forward to all the new things she would learn this year. But this year was not going to be exactly what Maya expected. Something was different this year. Something in school was not quite right. Maya was still learning how to read and write, and even though her homework was full of spelling mistakes, her teacher gave her a gold star. The teacher did not ask Maya to correct her spelling. Maya's mother asked the teacher why her daughter got a gold star. The teacher said that marking the spelling wrong would hurt the child's self-esteem. In the modern way of schooling, there was no right and no wrong. They now have a new way of spelling called invented spelling. She explained that the kids could spell words any way they liked. It's all correct because it's all creative.
Oh my God, how he has a rap career is beyond me. I don't get it. And he takes his shirt off. Oh my God, he looks like 50 pounds of chewed Tootsie Rolls with his... All right. Now, you are in white fashion. You know white boys always leave the house like they finna help somebody move. Resist and defend the horrible hoes. There are some horrible people. And what you need to do is start policing your own. Okay. Y'all gonna all have to bear with me because, as I've said before, I am working with a Chicago high school public education from the 80s and Mythbusters. I need to find out why it is we have so many unimpressive black college graduates. Okay? This is my thought. If you're not a doctor, if you're a doctor, here's a doctor. If I talk to this doctor and his history's not so good, well, that's okay. He's a doctor. If I talk to an accountant and his history's not so bad, he's an accountant. That's what he went to school for. If you go to school, ask yourself this, black college graduate who likes to talk about your school. If you go to a 4-year university and you do not have a title or some abbreviation behind your name with a comma, if you are not a whiz at either English, math, science, or history, what the hell were you doing for 4 years? Pretty please with sugar on top, stop talking about the other benefits of college. Well, you get to be well-rounded. You could do that as a bus driver or a bartender. Well, you get to know folks, and you get to look here. Asians are not sending their children to college. Indians, Jews, are not sending their children to college to become well-rounded. They're sending them to become your bosses, to become lawyers, to become surgeons, while you guys are going off learning how to step and coming back home and not being able to proofread your own letters. I know 15 of you that can't conjugate a damn verb and had your parents take out a second for that.
Wow.
Pretty please with sugar on top, black people who went to college. If you aren't using it to directly help other black people, stop bragging about it at parties, or at least the parties you see Jeff Brown at, because I'm going to come over and cut your shirt tail off at the collar. I'm done.
Jeff Brown! The intellectual rant was especially good today.
Thank you, sir.
You put work in. I'm proud of you.
I'm sitting today. Freez Luv sitting to my right.
He raised
He would
your
accept
bar.
no less.
right. No, but I think you bring up an important factor, man. We so busy, right, patting ourselves on the back for climbing a ladder, right, within a system that isn't designed for you, really. Let's just be honest.
Sharon Cummings called into the show.
When they decided the Emancipation Proclamation, we're going to release the slaves, it was with a plan. There's 4 million slaves here now. How do we resubjugate them?
Yeah.
Well, part of it, we got to send them to boarding school, right? Let's fund the HBCUs. Can we just be honest? When we start talking about the establishment of that, Steve Coakley talked about the Boule, right? The Boule is the parent, secret society organization over the Divine Nine. The AKAs, the Alphas, the Omegas, the all of them.
And how secret are they?
Right. You go back and do a little bit more research on Steve Coakley's information, and he'll tell you straight up. They took their little guide, their little Boule information pamphlet, and copied it directly from the Skull and Bones.
Margaret Mitchell, the author who wrote Gone with the Wind, funded Morehouse.
Wow.
Can I
So wait, let me make
White
this
woman.
point, and then I'm gonna give it back to y'all. So we'll see these videos out. That's very, very Masonry. Look at the Masonic symbols. Jay-Z is a devil worshiper and a part of the Illuminati, right? He's holding up the rock symbol. Well, we see sororities hold up this symbol too. And a sorority is a secret society, yes? Why don't we call them devil worshippers? Can we go into that?
Couple of points.
Speak to it, Geoff.
Once I did this thing for the NAACP, which I don't know why in 2014 the CP still, that's colored people, right? I did this thing for them with Kevin Powell. Shout out to Kevin from the brother that got his fame from MTV. Deep brother. He had everybody in the room crying with this. He said that black men have no idea what a successful black man looks like. You are just a bastardized version of what a successful white man looks like. You don't know what it's like to kill the elephant to feed your village. You don't know what a rite of passage is that has anything to do with you, because that has been erased. And therefore, you don't have any secrets. Jews got secrets. I was on Highland Avenue one Thursday, I think it was, and at 5:58, scared the hell out of me. It looked like a Madonna video. The light was red, and all of a sudden, out of doors, from nowhere, are all these people dressed in black, headed east to the synagogue. I didn't know what it was. Because I'm not Jewish. There is nothing about being black that everybody don't know everything about, because we take all our secrets and put in shortcomings and put them to dance music. So there are we don't have any secrets.
Wow.
So that boule, those aren't even your secrets, stupid.
Are American universities handing out degrees in quotology instead of degrees in critical thinking? This is all Farrakhan. Quotology. You have a degree in quotology. You have a master's degree, but it's a master's degree in nothing. You've mastered nothing. You have a doctorate. You have your doctor's degree, but you heal nothing. That's all Farrakhan. So my question is, if education is to make us articulate, what good is it to be articulate if you still have nothing to say? Right? What good, right? It's called the mastery of the semantic circuit, right? Right? I've mastered the ability to elocute. But if I'm not elocuting, right, to change the world, first by changing myself through challenge, right? The most intelligent people challenge themselves every day.
Daily.
Right? If you're walking around trying to live up to a standard that you've never challenged, you're a social robot. Yep. That's it. Your life really, in all honesty, has no meaning.
We don't have no academics to fight us, man. I thought you...
Oh, it got quiet.
Well,
E.F. Hutton lives. Oh, okay. There's a gentleman in 1883 by the name of King Leopold, and he spoke in front of a group of Belgian missionaries, colonial missionaries, and he told them the following. This is 1883. Everybody's heard about Willie Lynch and all that. That wasn't the only angle, because that was back in the 1400s. In 1883, it was necessary for King Leopold, because Belgium controlled the Congo. And he told the missionaries that were sent there, convert always the blacks by using the whip. Force them to pay you in sign of recognition every time you visit their villages, and never make them rich. Sing every day that it's impossible for the rich to get to heaven. Make them pay tax each week at Sunday Mass. Use the money to build businesses. Institute confessional, which allows you to be a good detective.
Wow.
Teach the niggas to forget their heroes and to adore only yours. Now,
wow.
I said that because a lot of times as we connect to some of the things that Brother Obba Babatunde said earlier about how we generationally pass on certain conditioning and thinking. And he supported an event a few years ago. It was Jim Brown's 75th birthday, because he thinks for himself. And I picked him up. I didn't have to talk to his manager, didn't have to talk to his people. He wasn't worried about his Q rating because he saw the inherent value in supporting the work that American does, which is real simple. Eliminate the negative, establish the facts, and choose your best option.
As it pertains to young black males in America, the question now becomes, has the educational or the institution of education, has it now become bedmates, partners with the privatized prisons? Because at the end of the day, I tell my son this every day, they're going to make money off of you either way.
Yeah.
Either way. Either you're going to go to work for them or you're going to work for them.
That's what your social
It's just, you know, however it works out. I am always pushing this because I think it's important for us to understand that if you have no true ownership, see, we think ownership is owning a house, owning a car, owning land, ownership is owning your narrative, owning yourself, right? I mean, listen, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to come back to, we got a couple of callers on the line that want to build on this topic. And this one sister, man, she put her kids through private school. She got all the bread, just watch her story. It's crazy. We'll be back in a second.
My country, 'tis of thee, land of races, hatred and bigotry. Where they hate me and love me for my niggatry. They call us niggas and they call their kids niggardly. And they've been trying to get rid of me for a century.
I have no clue about what I want to do with my life. I have no interest because I saw every subject as a study, as work, and I excelled at every subject just for the purpose of excelling and not learning. And quite frankly, I'm very scared. John Taylor Gatto, a retired school teacher and activist critical of compulsory schooling, asserts, "We could encourage the best qualities of youthfulness, curiosity, adventure, resilience, the capacity for surprising insight simply by being more flexible about time, texts, and tests, by introducing kids into truly competent adults, and by giving each student what autonomy he or she needs in order to take a risk every now and then." But we don't do that. Between these cinder block walls, we are all expected to be the same. We are trained to ace every standardized test, and those who deviate and see light through a different lens are worthless to the scheme of public education, and therefore viewed with contempt. H.L. Mencken wrote in the American Mercury for April 1924 that the aim of public education is not to fill the young of this species with knowledge and awaken their intelligence. Nothing could be further from the truth. The aim is simply to reduce as many individuals as possible to the same safe level, to breed and train a standardized citizenry, to put down dissent and originality. That is the aim in the United States. To illustrate this idea, doesn't it perturb you to learn about the idea of critical thinking? Is there really such a thing as uncritically thinking? To think is to process information in order to form an opinion. But if we are not critical when processing this information, are we really thinking? Or are we mindlessly accepting other opinions as truth? I must retrain myself and constantly remember how insane this ostensibly sane place really is. And now here I am in a world guided by fear, a world suppressing the uniqueness that lies inside each of us. A world where we can either acquiesce to the inhuman nonsense of corporatism and materialism or insist on change. We are not enlivened by an educational system that clandestinely sets us up for jobs that could be automated, for work that need not be done, for enslavement without fervency for meaningful achievement. We have no choices in life when money is our motivational force. Our motivational force ought to be passion, but this is lost from the moment we step into a system that trains us rather than inspires us. We are more than robotic bookshelves, conditioned to blurt out facts we were taught in school. We are all very special. Every human on this planet is very special. So aren't we all deserving of something better? Of using our minds for innovation rather than memorization, for creativity rather than futile activity, for rumination rather than stagnation? We are not here to get a degree to then get a job so we can consume industry-approved placation after placation. There is more and more still. The saddest part is that the majority of students don't have the opportunity to reflect as I did. The majority of students are put through the same brainwashing techniques in order to create a complacent labor force working in the interests of large corporations and secretive government. And worst of all, they are completely unaware of it. I will never be able to turn back these 18 years. I can't run away to another country with a different education system, perhaps meant to enlighten rather than condition. This part of my life is over, and I want to make sure that no other child will have his or her potential suppressed by powers meant to exploit. His or her potential suppressed by powers meant to exploit and control.
Every country on earth at the moment is reforming public education. There are two reasons for it. The first of them is economic. People are trying to work out, how do we educate our children to take their place in the economies of the 21st century? How do we do that, given that we can't anticipate what the economy will look like at the end of next week, as the recent turmoil is demonstrating? How do we do that? The second, though, is cultural. Every country on earth is trying to figure out, how do we educate our children so they have a sense of cultural identity and so that we can pass on the cultural genes of our communities while being part of the process of globalization. How do we square that circle? The problem is they're trying to meet the future by doing what they did in the past. And on the way, they're alienating millions of kids who don't see any purpose in going to school. When we went to school, we were kept there with a story, which was if you worked hard and did well and got a college degree, you would have a job. Our kids don't believe that. And they're right not to, by the way. You're better having a degree than not, but it's not a guarantee anymore. And particularly not if the route to it marginalizes most of the things that you think are important about yourself. Some people say we have to raise standards as if this is a breakthrough. You know, like, really, yes, we should. Why would you lower them? You know, I mean, I haven't come across an argument that persuades me of lowering them. But raising them, of course we should raise them. The problem is that the current system of education was designed and conceived and structured for a different age. It was conceived in the intellectual culture of the Enlightenment and in the economic circumstances of the Industrial Revolution. Before the middle of the 19th century, there were no systems of public education. Not really. I mean, you could get educated by Jesuits, you know, if you had the money. But public education, paid for from taxation, compulsory to everybody and free at the point of delivery, that was a revolutionary idea. And many people objected to it. They said it's not possible for many street kids, working class children, to benefit from public education. They're incapable of learning to read and write, and why are we spending time on this? So there's also built into it a whole series of assumptions about social structure and capacity. It was driven by an economic imperative of the time, but running right through it was an intellectual model of the mind, which was essentially the Enlightenment view of intelligence. That real intelligence consists in the capacity for a certain type of deductive reasoning and a knowledge of the classics originally, what we come to think of as academic ability. And this is deep in the gene pool of public education, that there are really two types of people, academic and non-academic, smart people and non-smart people. And the consequence of that is that many brilliant people think they're not, because they've been judged against this particular view of the mind. So we have twin pillars, economic and intellectual. And my view is that this model has caused chaos in many people's lives. It's been great for some. There have been people who have benefited wonderfully from it. But most people have not. Instead, they suffer this. This is the modern epidemic, and it's as misplaced and it's as fictitious. This is the plague of ADHD. Now, this is a map of the incidence of ADHD in America, or prescriptions for ADHD. Don't mistake me here. I don't mean to say there is no such thing as attention deficit disorder. I'm not qualified to say if there is such a thing. I know that a great majority of psychologists and paediatricians think there is such a thing. But it's still a matter of debate. What I do know for a fact is it's not an epidemic. These kids are being medicated as routinely as we had our tonsils taken out. And on the same whimsical basis and for the same reason, medical, fashion. Our children are living in the most intensely stimulating period in the history of the earth. They're being besieged with information and calls for their attention from every platform, computers, from iPhones, from advertising holdings, from hundreds of television channels. And we're penalizing them now for getting distracted. From what? Boring stuff. At school, for the most part. It seems to me it's not a coincidence, totally, that the incidence of ADHD has risen in parallel with the growth of standardized testing. Now, these kids are being given Ritalin and Adderall and all manner of things, often quite dangerous drugs, to get them focused and calm them down. But according to this, attention deficit disorder increases as you travel east across the country. People start losing interest in Oklahoma. They can hardly think straight in Arkansas. And by the time they get to Washington, they've lost it completely. And there are separate reasons for that, I believe. It's a fictitious epidemic. If you think of it, the arts, and I don't say this exclusively of the arts, I think it's also true of science and of maths, but I say about the arts particularly because they are the victims of this mentality currently, particularly. The arts especially address the idea of aesthetic experience. An aesthetic experience is one in which your senses are operating at their peak, when you're present in the current moment, when you're resonating with the excitement of this thing that you're experiencing, when you are fully alive. An anesthetic is when you shut your senses off and deaden yourself to what's happening. And a lot of these drugs are that. We're getting our children through education by anesthetizing them. And I think we should be doing the exact opposite. We shouldn't be putting them asleep. We should be waking them up to what they have inside of themselves. But the model we have is this. I believe we have a system of education that is modeled on the interests of industrialism and in the image of it. I'll give you a couple of examples. Schools are still pretty much organized on factory lines, ringing bells, separate facilities, specialized into separate subjects. We still educate children by batches. We put them through the system by age group. Why do we do that? Why is there this assumption that the most important thing kids have in common is how old they are? It's like the most important thing about them is their date of manufacture. You know what I mean? Well, I know kids who are much better than other kids at the same age in different disciplines, or at different times of the day, or better in smaller groups than in large groups, or sometimes they want to be on their own. If you're interested in the model of learning, you don't start from this production line mentality. It's essentially about conformity, and increasingly it's about that as you look at the growth of standardized testing and standardized curricula. And it's about standardization. I believe we've got to go in the exact opposite direction. That's what I mean about changing the paradigm. There was a great study done recently of divergent thinking. Published a couple of years ago. Divergent thinking isn't the same thing as creativity. I define creativity as the process of having original ideas that have value. Divergent thinking isn't a synonym, but it's an essential capacity for creativity. It's the ability to see lots of possible answers to a question, lots of possible ways of interpreting a question, to think what Edward de Bono would probably call laterally, to think not just in linear or convergent ways, to see multiple answers, not one. So, there are tests for this. One kind of cod example would be people might be asked to say, how many uses can you think of for a paperclip? One of those routine questions. Most people might come up with 10 or 15. People who are good at this might come up with 200. And they do that by saying, well, could the paperclip be 200 foot tall and be made out of foam rubber? Does it have to be a paperclip as we know it, Jim? Now, there are tests for this, and they gave them to 1,500 people. This is in a book called Breakpoint and Beyond. And on the protocol of the test, if you scored above a certain level, you'd be considered to be a genius at divergent thinking. Okay? So my question to you is, what percentage of the people tested, of the 1,500, scored at genius level for divergent thinking? Now, you need to know one more thing about them. These were kindergarten children. So what do you think? What percentage at genius level? 80. 80, okay. 98%. Now, the thing about this was it was a longitudinal study. So they retested the same children 5 years later, age of 8 to 10. What do you think? 15? They retested them again 5 years later, ages 13 to 15. You can see a trend here, can't you? Now, this tells an interesting story, because you could have imagined it going the other way, couldn't you? You start off not being very good, but you get better as you get older. But this shows two things. One is we all have this capacity, and two, it mostly deteriorates. Now, a lot of things have happened to these kids as they've grown up. A lot. But one of the most important things that happened to them, I'm convinced, is that by now they've become educated. You know, they've spent 10 years at school being told there's one answer, it's at the back. And don't look. And don't copy, because that's cheating. I mean, outside schools, that's called collaboration, you know, but inside schools. Now, this isn't because teachers want it this way, it's just because it happens that way. It's because it's in the gene pool of education. We have to think differently about human capacity. We have to get over this old conception of academic, non-academic, abstract, theoretical, vocational, and see it for what it is, a myth. Secondly, we have to recognize that most great learning happens in groups, that collaboration is the stuff of growth. If we atomize people and separate them and judge them separately, we form a kind of disjunction between them and their natural learning environment. And thirdly, it's crucially about the culture of our institutions, the habits of the institution and the habitats that they occupy.
I think it's important that we have these types of conversations. Who's educating your children? And what kind of education are they getting? Are they getting special treatment because they're sports kids? You know, sports kids who are stars at the school get to see a school inside the school. Because now the school's image is in play. Hey, he's fucking up. Let's pull in all the resources to make sure we don't look bad, right? Because if you got a star player and he flunks out your school, now they looking at you. Well, you know, in Europe, they have a different philosophy. The philosophy for education in Europe is, if your school and the teachers aren't good, you close. Period. You guys are out of business, right? Also, they don't attach the bread to the institution, the school. They attach the bread to the child. Wherever the child can go wherever he wants because the bread is attached to him. That's how Europe does it. Belgium. I want to go to this high-end private school. Well, the bread is attached to you. You can go there. No, they've got secret paramilitary police-style detectives checking to see if you live where you say you live in America. You see that one lady who went to prison, went to jail because she lied to get her kid in another school with a better education. This is where we live in America. And you trying to tell me classism isn't systemic and ingrained? A caste system, like Farrakhan says, they want to keep you in a socio-economic prison so they can remain the 1%. And guess what? The 1% aren't really that smart. I know. How many Americans you know all of those basic questions that everybody gets wrong? Right? You see those videos, oh, America's stupid. Just because the immigrants have to learn that shit don't make them any more intelligent than we are when they get here. We live here. We don't need to know that shit. You know, who was the 12th president of the United States? Who gives a fuck? He was racist, and he didn't care about us. Let's just, can we be honest? Can we be honest? How many African-American congressmen do we have? Who gives a fuck? They've been paid off.
We haven't bought any.
We, as a community, didn't buy them.
That's right.
So when we, as a community, get in trouble, we can't go to them.
We don't know.
Education is propaganda. Most niggas don't want to see that. Education is propaganda. What about the teachers who really want to change the lives of the students, but can't because of the system that's in place? Hey, wait a minute, you done went off the syllabus. You done went off the protocol. I see little black minds, little brown minds waking up. We didn't ask you to do that shit.
We're making drones here.
You're up for review. What about the back end patriotism? Make sure they do the Pledge of Allegiance. Right? There's some side shit going on that we don't really know about. But every time I hear some educator, well, we're not doing what we're supposed to do. What are we supposed to do? Acquiesce? Assimilate? I've always said this. Most Americans, and I'm going to say especially African Americans, would rather live a comfortable lie than an uncomfortable reality. It's just the truth. Our resident principal is in the building. He got here a little late. But he runs a university, right? A university of game and keeping it real. Corey Holcomb, principal of that university. Speak to us about the education system in America, Corey.
I just want to let you know, if you got a son or a daughter that's really smart in school, that is a blessing. But if your son or daughter can fuck the top-notch bitches in that school, I guarantee you he will be right there with the dudes who got money. He'll be having access to their money and everything, because if your son can fuck bitches while he broke, I guarantee you he gonna be fucking them bitches that them smart dudes marry.
So are you telling me that education doesn't matter? What are you saying, Corey?
Education is a bonus if you got it. But if you got game, you're gonna be right there in the mix with all them motherfuckers. All the dudes who was smart in school, I done fucked all they bitches and got money that they gave the bitches and the bitches gave to me. So I'm just telling you, you gotta be able to be intelligent, running game on bitches, and you'll be all right. Don't worry about school.
And I'm gonna say this really quickly. Is it possible? Rasputin, right? Is it possible for us to have a black Bill Gates or Steve Jobs?
They'll kill him.
Or Mark Zuckerberg. And I'm speaking because those guys are dropouts. Right? Puffy is a college dropout. Right? He's worth $500 million.
But he fuck dudes.
Oh, damn. And scene.
There is video footage.
Napalm!
He didn't shoot the video yet.
Hey, can I just cut out the middleman and pay him so he doesn't have to go to my wife?
Right.
Yeah. That's hilarious. That's
wow.
the first bomb.
That's a great joke, Doc.
Okay.
There's some truth in there.
The answer to his question is no, there cannot be a black Bill Gates or a black
Mark Zuckerberg
at this point. Because that's
what
all
about
he
Bronson? What about Bronson?
What about
the guy who owns Virgin? He's a high school dropout.
Yeah,
billionaire.
Richard Branson. There cannot be a black one of those because there isn't a black person on an American dollar. Until we have Martin Luther King on the $4 bill, then there'll be there's no such thing as that. We get back to what dollars really are. Those are billions of coupons. That's why Oprah can buy all the schools in Africa she wants. But you can't go to Chicago and buy 100 computer labs for 100 schools there.
Or you can't buy the Clippers.
Oh, you can't buy the Clippers. They're coupons.
I'm going to take Steve Ballmer's money, who already owned a team before. I'm not fucking with your money.
Kind of nihilistic.
But
if
if you-
that's true, then what's the point
Mike.
If you get something that turns into something, the government is gonna give you some money for it or take it, a la BET, a la everything
Niggas
that
got a price.
came from nothing and turned into something. They gonna show up and offer you some money, and if you don't take the money, they just go take the motherfucker.
Yeah, they're going to shut down the resources that makes it vital. Hold on, Geoff.
Yeah.
Veronica Conway is on the phone. Got to get her in here. She has a unique story of how she just mashed on the system and really got her kids privatized education taken care of. And when I say privatized, I mean George Lucas's kids go to these schools. the Schwab family. I mean, it's high-end edge right here.
Cocaine and fuck boys.
Okay. Veronica, you're on the line. Talk to us, Veronica.
Hey.
How are you? Talk to us about
Yeah.
this situation.
Yeah. Well, I think, I find that what I did is I have two children. One's 21 and one's 18. I got them $1 million in private school education for $25,000 over the course of their careers, including a full ride to an Ivy League college. And I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't know that I knew how to do it. I just got a vision for it. It's what I call aspirational parenting, when you parent beyond your circumstances. And you decide that you're going to acquire the best education that money can buy. So when I decided to do it, I didn't know how I was going to fund it. I think many of us avoid these institutions because we think that we aren't going to fund it. But the truth is that they'll meet 100% of any financial need that you can demonstrate. And your kids track up. In other words, they don't track into the tracks that they often do in public school. Once you've hit a $25,000 a year K through 8, then you go to a $40,000 a year high school. So I did this so that the elite decision makers, the owners of this country, would not be a mystery to my children. I didn't want that. I wanted my kids to understand that they could compete and not have them be a mystery. What I learned is that there is two types of education in this country. One's for the owners and one's for the consumers. So the owners get trained in what the video talked about, divergent and holistic thinking, and the consumers get trained in choices that are presented to them. That's the whole get down. That's it.
Damn. So you saying the 1% that rule the world are divergent, out-of-the-box thinkers, but everyone else are in the box, according to the system, fit in where you get in type thinkers.
I'm saying that the education that the elites present to their school, and by the way, to Dr. G's point, 50% of these schools are Jewish.
Wow.
Right? To Dr. G's point, I'm saying that the way that they train these folks is, by definition, to create divergent, holistic thinking. There's just a difference.
Wow. Bobby wants to say something to you.
So if we are going to educate our children, we have to decide to, A, create an economy of our own, right? And B, understand what divergent, out-of-the-box thinking to compete in the global economy actually looks like.
Wow. So, Veronica, Bobby wants to ask you a question really quickly.
If private education in that construct is apropos, would we consider Obama's Harvard education an aberration because he's not thinking for himself and he's not thinking out the box?
But he's thinking along...
He's not thinking like no owner.
But he's thinking along a trajectory.
Yeah.
Right? Just understand, there's a trajectory.
I'm confused then. If it's out of the box and it's a freedom of thought that's created in that private
No,
arena.
Bobby. If it's along a trajectory, it's not out of the box.
Let me clear that up.
It's
for you.
already predestined.
Let me clear that up for you. Thank you. I don't care.
But
I don't,
he didn't have to go to a private school to do that.
Here it is. Yes, actually, yes, you do. Here it is. When you're on the front of a roller coaster, I don't give a damn what kind of pilot or race driver you are. You are going to take the course of this roller coaster. You're just in the front seat. And that's where he sits. He sits in the front seat of a roller coaster that has been designed for hundreds of years, and plans are being designed and drawn up right now for hundreds of years ahead. And the pieces that he puts together are not pieces that necessarily have anything to do with him. And this is not me defending him in any way, shape, or form, because I am not one of them black folks that thought he was going to change the national anthem to Flashlight just because he got it. No, I'm not an Obama supporter at all. But I am very aware of what he couldn't do just by putting his name, his face, and hope under it. He didn't sell me shit.
Well,
he sold a whole bunch.
And you know what? I got it.
Is Veronica still on?
Yes, she is.
Yeah, Dr. G.
Yeah.
Veronica, do you think in the private school your kids got steered, whereas STEER, whereas in some of the inner city schools, the focus is on controlling them.
Right.
And controlling
Absolutely.
it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because stared is not bad. That's what you do as a coach in sports. You try to stare people and you guide them.
Right.
Whereas yeah.
I guess real quickly, I want to
Thank you.
know
Well,
the value.
I want to, but here's, I want to,
Veronica, hold on.
address that point really
Veronica,
quick, Dr. G,
Veronica,
and that is,
Veronica, hold on one second. Dr. G, Bobby, and then Veronica, and then Jasmine. So really quick.
Real quick, if Harvard, Yale, and all these schools are so excellent at producing leadership, and we send our kids to these schools, where is the end result of that? I haven't seen people come out of Harvard, come back to the community with anything but that elitist
The community?
Because that's not
There
what
is
they're-
no community.
We don't have one of those. But
yeah, we got a community.
No, we don't.
Oh,
No, we
yeah,
don't.
we do.
We got
Name
a
one.
community
It's in bad
of
shape.
Name one.
confused,
It's in bad
disheveled
shape.
vagrants.
No, we have groups of black people. We don't
That's
have a
a
community.
perception. Everything is perceived. We have a community.
I think
we
no,
have
no.
a community.
I think it
it's
depends.
fucked up.
I'm gonna
No,
speak
and
to
then
that.
I wanna
think
say
it
there is a
depends
dark
on
side.
what your intent is in terms of education. In other words, if you know, one of the so there's an upside to doing this private school thing. There's a downside, or there's things that you have to consider. One of the things you have to consider is how to keep your children with very high, powerful, self-determining esteem in the midst of tremendous wealth. You have to. There's an indoctrination that you have to do. It's that. It's to value themselves above their internal compass above all else. But what's also true is you have to decide what the point of the education. If you're deciding that it's for them to get a job, then that's one path. If you're giving them the education so they have more choices, then that's another path.
Right. And I think that's a great point. We got to take a quick break. But Veronica made some hell of a points here. How many households in the African American community is banking on that football player or that basketball player to pull the rest of the family, or that musician to pull the rest of the family out of the doldrums?
Oh, you mean like that dude that New just clowned and now his
Hey,
parents?
either you got a wicked jump shot, or you got to
You smoke crack. Yeah,
you got to sling the crack rock. It's a tough situation. We'll be back at 2.2.
But the mere fact that they say that the tariff act of 9%.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another riveting, thought-provoking topic. The panel is always incredible. I appreciate every last one of you. But I'm going to say something that I think has to happen. We are social dependents, right? We talked about this before on another show. If you get a lawyer, by legal terms, you are considered an infant because you can't speak for yourself. Right? When you are dependent on someone else to tell you who you are, right? You're really just an external being. You're not a fully integrated being that knows himself, that knows the source of what it means to be you, right? You are bereft of that. And in the African American community, if we look at the educational system across the board, it's broken for all of its students, not just for white folk, but for all of its students that don't have money to pay for the resources necessary to become test masters, right? Understand something about knowledge. We always big up knowledge. Knowledge is the reflex of memory. The better your memory, the better you are in school. It's really that simple. We are trained, as Brother Obba Babatunde said, trained to memorize, not trained to understand, not trained to critically think and break down and arrive at an understanding on our own. You look up the Hindu word guru. It means the dispeller of darkness. In other words, I'm pointing you in a direction, but you yourself have to walk the path. in order to gain the knowledge that I'm pointing you towards. Understand something about teachers. If a teacher is broken inwardly, he cannot teach children, especially if he hasn't reconciled his brokenness. So whatever is in front of the kid is observing and absorbing. Understand this too. It happens in a household. That's do as I say, not as I do, right? Right? It happens in a household. If you're an ignorant parent, the child is going to pick that up just by living with you. Same happens in a classroom. That's why when I tell my children's teacher, listen, I raised them at home, you got to raise them at school. And if you're not interested in raising my child at school, right, then you're not a good teacher. You're not the school for him or her, right? You're not the school for them, right? So let's go deep. What is intelligence? Intelligence is rebellion. And the educational system in America is totally against rebellion. It's all about acquiescence. You acquiesce to the authority, even though the authority is wrong. You want to call Indians the first people in America when you know black people were here before Indians. You know Indians are a mixed race. You know this genetically. You know this, right? You want to say Columbus created America, and we still have Columbus Day. You know it's not true. You even got a new movie coming out with Christian Bale as Moses, and they are recreating the Sphinx with a European face. Even though you know Napoleon blew the face off of the Sphinx, and you can look at the Sphinx today, and it has the same African features of Southern Africans. You know all of this. You're not trying to educate us. You're trying to program us, right? And until black upper echelon, so-called educated Negro, right? Until they say, no, fuck that. We want to take ownership back of our education. We want to take ownership of our narrative. But I believe that the bourgeoisie has sold out the roots of the tree they came from for a branch in the tree they want to be in. That's what I believe. Right? So understand, who was the light bearer in the Bible? His name was Lucifer, the light bearer. When you graduate from school, you're considered an alumni, an alumnus. Is that related to the Illuminati, one who is illuminated? Buddha, the enlightened one, right? Did they get the Bible in reverse? What did the devil do to God that made him an outcast? He rebelled. You motherfuckers is scared to rebel against the God of your mediocre life. The white supremacist authority. When will we rise and become Lucifer of the game? Nah, I'm better than this. I don't believe none of this shit y'all talking about. I want to do what I want to do. I want to do for my people the way I want to do for my people. I want to take control of the educational system. I see so many niggas hanging it on their, wearing it on their chest that, oh, I graduated from here and I did this and I did that. But you ain't shit when it comes to helping your people. You got niggas out there right now talking about 5 types of conscious black people you should avoid. What? That's what we talking about? But you ain't gonna avoid Christians. And ain't nobody caused more damage and pillage on planet Earth than Christians punking everybody out of their indigenous beliefs with force. So do you understand what I'm saying here? If you don't have knowledge of self, you don't have education. Right? And if you don't control the knowledge of yourself, you don't have freedom. You're dead, waiting for somebody to tell you what to think. Well, I'm not that person. I'm going to challenge everything. I'm going to challenge everybody. I'm going to be the Lucifer of the situation. I'm going to rebel. And that's what this platform is about. Fuck what you think. Prove it. Show me. Black people, when it comes to education, get your kids into engineering, mathematics, so they can become useful to the globe regardless of their race. A black engineer can go to China and build cities, right? A black mathematician can do the same. That's what we need to do. With that said, those are my final thoughts. I know I rant. I'm sorry. But let me give it up real quick to everybody who showed up. Bobby G, where can they find you? Bobby Glanton Smith. Just Google him. RealMenDon'tPlay.com. Jasmine, go buy Jasmine's records right now. Where can they get it?
MelodiousFly. At melodiousfly.bandcamp.com.
Bam. Brother Baba! What's up, Babatunde? Come
Obba
on.
Babatunde, my son too at AOL.com is a simple way to get me.
Hey, man, we really appreciate you taking the time, man. You dropped a gang of knowledge. I've been getting tweets from people saying, oh, he killed it. You got to come back soon.
Thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you, brother. Dr. G!
Just listed at Amazon. It's the top book at Amazon now on listing in North America. So
there we go.
Just check it out.
And he does a lot of listening on the show because we push him around a little bit. Corey Holcomb, where are you going to be at, man?
I'm working out in Sacramento this week, and I want to let you know, if you have a baby that's dumb, feed it, give it water, and try to make a better baby.
Oh, shit! Geoff! Oh, God.
Thank you so much, y'all. Buying it like crazy. Geoff Brown, Wrong Ass Shit, available on iTunes, my comedy album, as well as my ringtones. Thank you.
Hey, Freez Luv.
Freez Luv at Freez Luv Comedy and Killer Whales, KILLAHWHALEZ. Look it up.
Yo, great show. Follow me on Instagram at Mr. Zowhat, on Twitter at Zoe Williams. Buy blackmastery.com, or go to blackmastery.com, buy the Black Mastery program, and get those final copies of my Rebirth of Seeds books. IamZoeWilliams.com. See you next week. Heaters, peace.
You are watching T-Radio Me. Radio MTV.